I wrote down these thoughts recently, and I'm honestly having a hard time, both just because it's not as clear as it seemed in my head when I wrote them down, and also because talking about suicide is a surreal thing. It's definitely the kind of thing that Chris Williamson recently described as unteachable lessons. I hope not everyone experiences suicidal thoughts, suicidal ideation, passive suicidal ideation, but that's why I wanted to read some of these thoughts, kind of put together a collage of the thoughts and the ideas. As I read through these things, I think about it. Occurred to me that the idea of suicide is that it is a result of a total loss, or perhaps the panic over the temporary but extreme sensation of loss, of ability to question one's negativity. It comes from a total loss of hope in the future. And I kind of played around with this idea, and I played around with it in poetry and song lyrics, and this idea of the 40-year suicide. That one of the things that scared me, and I felt a couple acute moments of panic, is this feeling of, well, I'm not going to choose to end life right now, but what if, if on average I live to be 80 and I'm 41 right now, what if the rest of my life hurts this bad? What if the rest of my life I feel this existential ennui, this sense of longing for something but never being able to describe it, and sprinkle in acute anger and sadness, and it just felt like, well, it's end your life now, or just kind of live out a miserable existence until life ends it for you. And like, even as I say that out loud and read through some of these thoughts, and I wrote these down a few days ago, it's not some long distant journal entry in the past. It's surreal how, on one hand, my intellect recognizes how critical, how negative, how pessimistic that sounds. That, the only choice is to live a entirely miserable life, or to end it. And that, in a strange way, I'm glad to have gone through it. And I also am glad to say that I think I'm kind of coming out of it, because I can look at that and say, not only does that intellectually seem incorrect, that, I would be able to tell the future, and I also would be able to predict with 100% certainty that it's going to be nothing but misery. But emotionally, that doesn't even resonate with me. But part of the reason why I wanted to make a video was to point out that when I was in those moments of deep anger and sadness and depression, it was the emotions that I was running from. It was the emotions that I was scared that I would feel the rest of my life. I wrote this section, how I got into my dank pit of depression and life change is simple. When I strip away the egocentric desires to debase others and make myself look good. I experienced my mother having a stroke during COVID. I worked at a company with a lot of my friend group, and there were tensions and missteps between us. I left this place, right, this workplace, feeling like all my friends were dead or dying, right? My friendships were dead or dying. That I was more aware of the fragility of life than ever, and that nothing mattered emotionally. I had moments of logic, of counting my blessings and trying to rationalize my way out of this pit, but it never stuck. I fell back into the pit so easily. It was in this state that I woke up a few times thinking that I wish I hadn't, or I'd go to bed wishing not to wake up. This scared me, and at the same time, I didn't know what to do about it. I felt embarrassed, I felt shameful. I'm tempted to say they're cliches, but they're not trite, and it's not easy to have those moments of panic and then also feel like I get why people talk about not being able to tell people about this, because that feeling of like this is the worst and I have to suffer alone is what my mind told me. I occasionally had times of such panic that the thought of run away from it all forever crossed my mind. I felt like my options other than suicide were basically some flavor of to give up to living in the pit, my pit, right? My desire to own my pit as like my piece of real estate. I figured I'd be around for 40 more years, just existing in the pit, but that's not a life that sounds... honestly, that life sounds horrible. It sounds like, I said out loud to myself one day, a 40-year suicide. A strange thought occurred to me of like, well, you're too cowardly to end your life, so you'll just wait for 40 years for existence to end it yourself. And I still struggle with this. I still struggle with coming out of this pit, this place. The reason why I'm making this video isn't because I think I have a silver bullet. I think the silver bullet was to sit down and to stop running from the feelings and to just sit there and ask myself out loud, what are you running from? And the things you keep telling yourself, a good person doesn't feel this way, or a nice person, or a Christian person, a good son, or a good husband, or a good father, right? I mean, like these identity traits. It's like, well, you have all these identities, and those identities say no to feeling feelings. Until I stripped that away, I think that was a part of what awoke in me this change, and kind of starting to see a way out of the pit, or to change my perception of that darkness. But part of why I'm making this video is because as I opened up to a few people, I realized that suicidal ideation is more common than I realized, and also like, I don't want to describe as normal as in like it's fine, don't worry about it, right? It's clearly it's a cause for concern on many levels. But in some ways, if I do want to normalize the concept that if for some reason your brain is only focusing on negativity and repeating a narrative of everything is horrible and will not get better, can we not have some empathy for why suicide would be like, for the rational mind, why that would seem logical? I go on to write, the hell you experience is real as any thought you think. And that was one of those, I guess I had a silly, prideful moment of patting myself on the back and going, oh, that was profound. But I want to read that again because I think that was inspired. The hell you experience is real as any thought you think. The follow-up question I want you to consider: are thoughts you think real? Are they true? If you think this point of the video, right, or of the essay, will be some concise silver bullet of words to speak, like an incantation to stop you or someone else, to snap you or someone else out of their hell, well, I wish I had that power. It might feel like you have to find a solution to your feelings, right, is what I wrote down. And again, I think that trying to escape, that was what I was trying for months, of saying, I hate this, and I shouldn't have to deal with this. I shouldn't be dealing with this. The danger of thinking this way is that if you don't find a solution that permanently drives away the specter of your emotions, if you aren't able to find some sort of permanent disassociative mechanism, well, there's a sort of panic that just seems to creep in. Because if you're going, I must escape my feelings, I cannot escape them permanently, so thus they will always be there and will be as bad as they are now, because I keep repressing them, and they turns out that just makes feelings worse. Well, again, can we not see some sort of logical inevitability? If that is the only mindset present in your mind, why suicide makes sense? It's to escape a world already damned. I'm certainly not trying to encourage this. If anything, I'm trying to make this video and trying to get these thoughts down because I want you, I want me, I want people to understand that you're not alone in thinking this way. And hang on. Time and therapy are mechanisms that I got one group therapy thing for 8 weeks and going once a week with other men. That was awesome. I appreciate it. I got it through, my church, affiliation kind of thing, because I was unemployed, and I my point of bringing that up is that I realize that depending on who you are watching this video, you may say, well, that's good and dandy that somebody else says, well, hang on, but I can't escape it, right? I don't have the resources, the access to care, to, I can't seem to find the therapist. I've tried lots of options and they don't work. Yeah, I met some people like that in my group therapy, and I saw the distress that they felt, and it was this duality of, on one hand, I'm going, that seems so pessimistic, and very fascinating to look at it, from the observer's seat and go, oh, is that what my thought processes sound like when I think all is lost and I'm never going to be happy again? That's interesting. But once more, I do not fault them for struggling with that, because I struggled with the same thing. I wrote down here, a key component of acceptance and commitment therapy, right? That was the kind of therapy we did in this men's group. Is the first part, acceptance. Acceptance is to not just grit your teeth and white knuckle through your emotions and disastrous thoughts. It's to recognize that these things are walking beside you on this trail, on this road. They aren't you, right? They're signals that come up in your mind, thoughts that arise. This is what I kind of realized. There was an interesting little kind of thought experiment that helped me to kind of maybe more concretely put down the idea of, you are not the thoughts you think, right? And you may think, well, but they live in my head. Ain't nobody else living in my head. But that's where it occurred to me, well, if you have a thought about a political figure, right? I mean, I'm sure I could say names here to get, the video demonetized or whatever. Joke's on you. I ain't making money on YouTube anyhow. I hope one day you find this video and I'm making tons of money from YouTube, and the irony is so palpable, because right now it ain't happening. Maybe that's for the best. But think about it. If you think a thought about Adolf Hitler, or are you Adolf Hitler? Do you like him? If you think about, if you think about Mao Zedong, if you think about Gandhi, make it a positive person, right? There are many people who espouse the virtues of Buddha and try to think of Buddha or Jesus or, JFK or, I don't know, like, pick anyone, right? Pick a personal hero of yours. Just because you think about that person, it doesn't make you them. You're still you. These thoughts are, as some people say, living rent-free in your head, but they aren't you. I don't know. I thought that was a worthwhile thing to think about. I wrote down, you might think that a historical figure or a movie you once saw, right? But that doesn't make those things you, they're thoughts. It is not you telling yourself that this pit is all there is now. That is what the emotion of fear tells you. Acceptance is letting this emotion or any others say their piece. Your thoughts can shout, but they have no bite. That was a powerful lesson, right? They look scary, they jump and rant and rave, and sometimes they're so stinking loud. but they have no bite. They don't have any way to wrench the steering wheel out of your hands. You, the intelligence, the entity that observes your emotions, that's you. You are still in control. The amygdala, right? The part of our brain that lives at the base of our skull and that handles survival is not the part of our brain that handles logic and study. When we sit down and we let the thoughts speak their piece, right? We let the emotions speak their piece, while remembering that whatever they say is not automatically true or helpful. That's from cognitive behavioral therapy. One way to challenge your thoughts is just to go, I'm observing that I'm thinking something, right? For example, life is pointless and there's no hope in it. That I can go, is that helpful and true? Turns out, according to CBT, the thoughts worth listening to are the ones that are helpful and true. And it may feel, right, at times where you go, well, life is hopeless. Is that true? Is it helpful? Right? It may feel true, but it's not particularly helpful if your goal is to stay alive. And I want you to stay alive. It helps to calm our amygdala, right? When we can listen to them without necessarily having to just like hold hands and go run away with them to get married in Vegas to our thoughts, our intrusive thoughts. We can calm our amygdala when we listen to these, not by force, but by care and attention, the way a kind parent would calm a sobbing child. Eventually, the child's crying has run its course, and then the child realizes there's something else to do. This is like a prefrontal cortex, when our thoughts can speak up and we listen, not to believe, but to accept their voice and presence. These things can leave on their own, and the prefrontal cortex can apply some logic and reason to our situation. No, it's unlikely that all the lost things will be found. Damage done by me and others to friendships. And this was hard to write, it's hard to read. Damage done by me and others to friendships may well be unfixable by finite, flawed humans. That sucks. That's hard. There's someone potentially coming on a path. Loved ones eventually die. These truths conjure up sadness. I mean, it's sad to even listen to it and deal with it. The trick is to sit with the sadness, right? To just be able to just accept it. Hey. I did find that when I accepted that some things may be gone from me, and it may be that in some ways the things that I lost are gone and will forever feel a sense of sadness about them, or at least they'll be gone. But what joy when we find something we thought gone forever. How much sweeter is a deep relationship when it is hard won. Love in the moment it is given and received is a moment of miracle and graciousness rarely equaled by anything else. I wrote down and I want to read this. I just want you to stick around. I can't tell you what will improve. I can't tell you when you may feel better. I have longed for such things to be given to me while in the pit. I felt angry people didn't give me such things. I felt so angry as I struggled with employment, finding a job, and seeing people that I loved and still love, and they were employed and they'd have smiles on their faces, and there was just occasionally this like otherworldly jealousy and anger and frustration. And I would think, I don't want to be that guy, so I would just shove that stuff right down. Just made it worse. So I've longed for these things to be given to me while in the pit. I felt angry that people didn't give me such things. I felt trapped, and my fear screamed that this is all there will ever be, a 40-year suicide. I can at least tell you this. Suicide is the result of panic, that life might never return to how it has been. My hope for myself and for you is to give us the gift of doubt in this certainty. Maybe your fear, my fear, maybe it doesn't predict the future as well as it claims. Maybe we aren't in a pit, but a dark section of highway. We are assured of things never getting brighter only when we stop traveling forward. Thanks for watching. Stick with me.